Microphone check. Check one. Check one.
That's right. Hello, friends. Good afternoon, everyone. Good afternoon and welcome. We're going to get started here in just a couple of minutes. Well, all right then, as we finish getting settled, good afternoon, everyone, and welcome to the March 14th Oregon Tourism Commission meeting. I'm beaming like an idiot over here because there's a room full of people, and it's been a minute. Wow. To everyone who has joined us today here in Sun River and through Travel Oregon's industry YouTube channel, thank you for making the time to be with us. Today's meeting materials, including the agenda and supplemental materials, can be found on the Travel Oregon Industry website if you'd like to follow along. There is a sign-up sheet in the back of the room for public comments, should anyone want to add their name to the speaking list. We'll get to that in just a few minutes. Wow, this is great. Commissioners, I'd like to acknowledge that in holding our meeting today, we meet all of the public meeting notice requirements as provided in state law. And maybe to proceed with the formalities quickly and be able to dive into our agenda, I'd like to ask each commissioner to introduce themselves, and maybe beginning with Commissioner Boyles.
Afternoon all, I'm Richard Boyles, President of Merite Hotel Management Group and currently serving as Vice Chair of the Commission.
Good morning, Don Anway, Newman Hotel Group, Ashland, Oregon.
Good morning, I am Erin Stevenson, founder of the Atticus Hotel in McMinnville, Oregon.
Good morning, Mia Shepard from Maupin, Oregon, owner of Little Creek Outfitters, and so wonderful to be here and see everybody's beautiful faces.
Good morning, David Pendleton with America's Hub Tours, and yes, it is wonderful to be here in person with everyone, and I just want to first of all say thank you to the Sun River staff for allowing us to be here, and to Ben as well, and to all the stakeholders that's here as well today. Thanks.
Hi, everybody. Great to see everybody in person. Maria Ponzi, formerly of Ponzi Vineyards, currently Laurelwood Vineyard Management Company up in the Willamette Valley. Great to be here.
Hello, and I am Greg Willits, and this is a meeting in my backyard, which is nice for a change. I have Five Pine Lodge in Sisters, one of the greatest towns in Oregon.
My name is Lucinda DeNovo. I'm the Director of Sales at the Mill Casino Hotel and RV Park, owned by the Cookwell Indian Tribe on the beautiful southern Oregon coast.
And good afternoon, folks. I'm Scott Youngblood, the innkeeper at the Embassy Suites by Hilton, Washington Square up in beautiful Washington County, joined by your Travel Oregon CEO, Todd Davidson. And let's begin. And maybe, commissioners, we should begin by taking a moment to acknowledge really how cool it is to be together today, and to appreciate the investment of time and talent that our Travel Oregon staff and the good folks here at Sun River have expended in order to bring us together here today and over the next couple of days. For the Oregon Governor's Conference on Tourism, we're back. Sorry, I swear I'll pick up the pace any minute now. I'm still, it just doesn't feel entirely real yet, Erica. I'm gonna get there. Yeah, these events are never easy in terms of the undertaking, the logistics, the planning, the execution, and I'm humbled and grateful for the tireless effort and commitment of both the Travel Oregon team and the folks here serving us today. to bring our industry back together again in person. And to our industry partners in the room today and those joining us via live stream, I'm grateful for you as well, for your perseverance, your tenacity. In spite of all that you've endured and overcome these past 2 years, we appreciate your resilience and your partnership. And to those of you who are able to be here in Central Oregon and share in this fellowship, this inspiration, this education, I look forward to catching up with as many of you as possible. On Tuesday, March 1st, the commission meeting notice was posted for today's event, this commission meeting, on the commission meetings webpage. Notice was sent through our industry communications, and the meeting materials, including the agenda, the financials, a strategic plan progress report, along with the public comment form and instructions, and a link to this live stream, were all posted. One online comment was submitted and has been shared with the commission, and that will be posted to the official public meetings record. And today, with this meeting being held in person, we have also reinstated the opportunity for attendees to sign up to speak live today, as well as having made the opportunity for anyone who wants to provide public comment virtually. I don't know that we've received any virtual commentary. And so perhaps we should proceed with the folks here who have signed up to give public comment today. The first person on the list is Lizzie Keenan with the Mount Hood Gorge RDMO. Hi, Lizzie. Welcome aboard. We'll make sure we've got a mic on for you.
Sounds good. Well, thank you guys. This is my first time doing public comment, even though I've presented in front of you many times. Thank you for the opportunity to do this. As a reminder, I am Lizzie Keenan. I am the regional lead for the Mount Hood Columbia River Gorge RDMO, or Regional Tourism Alliance, Margarita, as some of you may recall, our acronym. I wanted to come in front of you today to share how happy I am to see that the consideration of reinstating a minimum floor for RCTP funding has come back in front of the Commission for discussion. I wanted to take a moment to share with you what this action means for the Mount Hood and Columbia River Gorge region and why we believe this is an important topic for you to review and discuss on an annual basis. The original intent around setting the floor for this funding is and was based in a value of equity. We share this value with the Commission and support the pursuit of equity to meet the unique needs of each region. For a region like ours, where overnight visitation is limited by geographic and land use constraints, but day visitation reaches some of Oregon's highest peaks, any level of additional support to help our destination management priorities in the region is incredibly impactful. The role and work of each RDMO in the state is very similar, but there's a significant difference in RCTP funding amongst each region, and helping to set a base level for all is important. Also, as we have seen from when this initial $300,000 base was set in 2017, the world continues to change, the role and work of tourism and RDMOs has continued to change, and a transformational strategy for Oregon is forthcoming. So because of this, I believe it is important that the Commission have an ongoing discussion about and commitment to what equity means for the RCTP program. Thank you again for your time. I look forward to catching up with you all in person at Governor's Conference while we're here this week, and that's all I've got. Thank you.
That is wonderful. Lizzie, thank you. Thank you for your commentary. I know the last few times you've all done that at home in front of your computer screens muted, but it just means so much more right now like this. Our next guest to give public comment is Scott West. Mr. West.
Good afternoon. Nice to be with you all again. And before I start, I wanted to make a couple comments on the plan, but before I start, I just wanted to take a moment to acknowledge the passing of Jerry Frank. Probably somebody was going to do that today, but the passing of Jerry Frank, and I had the good opportunity to get to know him and what he meant to the tourism industry, but also to Oregon itself. So he was a giant in this industry, and I think the opportunity to do that. The other thing is I would just want to go on record as acknowledging that what's going on half a world away in Ukraine, and just shout out to the people of Ukraine and the leadership there and the awful things that are going on there, and just reminds us of humanity. And the other part, it reminds us of what leadership looks like when you watch that president, when you watch bravery, when you watch courage, when you watch humility, and you also see being really honest with his people and the world. So I think those are all things that I wanted to say first. Secondly, I just wanted to make a couple of brief comments about the transformational plan. First of all, I watched the last commission meeting, so I know you got some processes in place. I think Lizzie spoke to them too, and I assume all the good people will wrestle all the right words to the page, and you'll figure it all out, because you always have. But I also remind everybody, no plan has ever executed itself. None of them have come off the shelf, come down into the field and done it. So the reality is, at the end of the day, it's all going to take people. Also a reminder that sometimes it sounds like this transformational plan sits in isolation. I just want to remind everybody that this industry has been through transformative events for the last 30 years, whether it's lottery dollars that it got in the late 80s, whether it was 9/11, passage of the tourism bill, the recession in 08, the 2016, this COVID event that's going on right now. All of these things are big changes that the industry has to deal with, and I have confidence in the industry because there's great people in the industry, also because it has always done what it has, which is come together and solve those problems. So I have high confidence in that. But there's still questions around the plan, and I know that, and you're fielding those on what does it mean for me, what does it mean for my business, what does it mean for my region, what does it mean for me as a staff member at Travel Oregon with the plan and structure and all that stuff. And those things, those things need to be iterated clearly and concisely, honestly, and mean something. And I think all of you know that, but I just wanted to say that. Most importantly, people matter, and not one of these plans have gotten off the shelf and done it. And was reminded of that, I think, by Carrie Wesson's comments the last time about how important the relationships are. And so this is a people business. It's all it is. It's people just making decisions like this, and it's people inviting people here and people greeting people here. Great locations, great destinations with lousy people are lousy destinations. Average destinations with great people are great destinations. And again, things that we remind ourselves if we come out of the malaise of this COVID nonsense. These last 2 years have been horrible for everybody, and there's not a person in this room that hasn't been affected either personally, their business, and not just from a financial perspective, but also from the perspective of their mental health. They've lost humans, whether it's relatives or family members. Everybody knows somebody that's passed, and so there's great grief in this industry and this world as we move out of this. So I think this group, you must remove yourself from the behind technology, and I know you've been in technology for a long time, but an added effort to make sure that you're not seen as, whether you're not saying that it's hiding, but that distance, that flatness that comes from these video screens, people can get used to that. And people can get used to not making the effort to step out from behind that and see people. I encourage you all to do that, both with yourselves, but also with your staffs and everything else. And lastly, what I really came here to do is to speak to the loss of people. This organization lost a bunch of people in 2020, and this industry's lost a ton of people. I'm not here to relitigate the decisions that were made. Everybody had to make decisions. That's just the way that it was, and that's the moment demanded that. But I do think the humanity, as we've gone through this, the plan that you have before you, the transformational plan such as it is, and also whatever your strategic plan is, was all built on all these people, everybody that came before any of us. And the people that are no longer here had played a big role in getting Travel Oregon to the success that they were, so that you could come along on top of that and now sit in this transformational moment. So I think it's important to acknowledge them. I'm going to acknowledge them by name. I can't do that for everybody in the state, but I remind you that you've lost people, and right now you have an enormous workforce issue too. So these things not directly connected, but we find yourself in a place as business comes out and there's not enough workforce. The good news is that you have people in this industry, Jeff Knapp, Eric Abbey, others that are working on this, and I have a high degree of confidence in them because I do believe That is, if it's not your number one issue, it is your number 1A issue as the industry does move forward. And I think that it's, as I've always encouraged, and folks that I had the good fortune to work with over the years, my dad taught me a couple of things. Number one, and I'll use better language than he would use, but it's like it was, you have to put up with some crap in this life, but you never have to take it. So you think about that, certainly, well, what that really is about having self-respect, knowing your own boundaries, what's just noise and what's real, and how you actually work on that. I mean, how you actually deal with that. The other one was don't be cute or don't be clever, which is meaning say what you need to say. Don't dance around it. Don't try to get close to it. Don't do that. Say what you need to say. So I would encourage all of you, because that's the respect for the people that are on the other end of that conversation, the people you're talking to. So self-respect and respect given. So I would encourage you as you go through this, when you look at this plan and you look at working with the industry and when you look at working with your employees, Travel Oregon, make sure you're very clear on what your expectations are. And so, because I think that's a show of respect, it's deserved, and it's necessary if you're going to succeed, if the organization is going to succeed, continue to succeed, and be along with the industry and bring the industry along with the partners. And the partners more than likely are bringing the Travel Oregon along in many cases, as they should. I wanted to say is just make sure that you give yourself the respect, but give the respect of honesty to the folks that you deal with. So I'm going to read these folks by alphabet. I reached out to everybody, some to give their permission to state their name here today. I received back from 90% of them. Those that didn't, I'll just state their positions, where they work, but we couldn't run them down. I want to acknowledge Carol Astley from Global Strategic Partnership. It is enormously difficult to think of this event without thinking of Carol Astley. This event is Carol Astley. She made this event this way. She led this event this way. And I think in that space, I think it's hard to be here without acknowledging her. Kayla Dunn in Destination Development, Lorna Davis from Global Sales, remember Lorna from Easter for the European, Linnea Gagliano in our Communications Department here behind it, Beth Garrett in Global Marketing, Jeff Hampton, no longer with Travel Oregon, who had came and went with Travel Oregon a couple of times, but also played a big role with Lodging and the Restaurant Association. Stephen Hatfield from Destination Development and Outdoor Recreation. Jessica Otchin from Global Strategic Partnerships. Heather Plantanias, don't hit me, Petra, please, because I'm in Global Sales. And Holly Vandeweghe, Michael, if you're here, don't hit me either, from Global Marketing. Elena Vizzini from Global Sales. Jenna Wheatley, I hear, is going to be here sometime over the weekend from Global Sales. And Meredith Williams, who worked with me in strategy and operations. So those were all the folks that, then there was a position in Destination Development, one in operations, another in the executive office, which I know the person was left but now is back working, and then also in global marketing and in the digital space. So I also want to acknowledge the people that voluntarily left Travel Oregon, and Kristen Dahl in Destination Development, Courtney Doss in Global Strategic Partnerships, Andrew Grossman in Destination Development, Rourke Hart from Global Marketing, Robert Cutter in Operations, Sarah Morrissey, Strategy and Operations, Sachi York in Global Marketing. You've got 120 to 150 years of experience with Travel Oregon. That's a lot to lose. And again, acknowledging that this was of none of their makings nor anybody else's, not relitigating the decision. But I wanted to acknowledge them. And I also want to acknowledge every other employee in the state of Oregon in this industry that lost their position during COVID and wish them well coming back. So with that, I will say, what's my conclusion? Say, that's it. No more from me. Out. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. West. Next, we have Marlee Boxler. With Explore Troutdale. Marlee, are you here? Oh, there you are. Hello. Good afternoon and welcome.
Thank you. Good afternoon, Commissioners. Thank you for the opportunity to share my public comment with you this afternoon. My name is Marley Voxler, and I'm the Economic Development Coordinator with the City of Troutdale, also responsible for Explore Troutdale, the tourism program within the city. I wanted to provide support for reinstating the minimum floor for RCTP funding levels. Troutdale is a part of the Columbia River Gorge and Mount Hood Regional District. Our region is lucky to have such beautiful natural wonders that are some of the largest tourist attractions in the state. However, with that comes the land use and zoning constraints of the National Scenic Area and the National Forest. This reduces our region's ability to build lodging facilities to support the large numbers of tourists our region sees on a daily basis. In turn, this means that our region receives less funding for destination management than other regions despite our large number of tourists. Troutdale is a small community with a charming historic downtown. We have a small number of lodging properties, which provides us with transient lodging tax to fund our operations. However, the support from our RDMO is crucial to the work we do in supporting other communities in our region. Being able to rely on a minimum funding level allows for more equity and sustainability in tourism, not only in our region, but across the state. Thank you for taking the time to listen to my public comment, and have a great afternoon and conference.
Thank you. Thank you again to Lizzie and to Scott and to Marley for your public commentary. Well, friends, as members of the Oregon Tourism Commission, we get to witness the incredible work produced by Travel Oregon's staff every single day. We share the responsibility and the honor, as defined in statute, of evaluating and approving the agency's strategic plans and budgets, and to appoint our CEO and to set compensation. And as representatives of Oregon's tourism industry, we've inherited, I'm looking at my notes here and I feel like I'm about to recite Scott's testimony, but I'll try to do it justice. We've inherited a legacy, one who's demonstrated success in guiding the agency through prosperity and beyond obstacles. It's impressive. This legacy of achievement, yours as the commission, comes from the partnership and well-earned confidence we have in one another, in our strategic partners, and of course, in the Travel Oregon staff. As we reflect on this legacy, I too must pause to reflect on the loss of Jerry Frank, a remarkable Oregonian. Jerry Frank, who passed away yesterday, loved Oregon, and he loved being connected to the commission, which he chaired 5 years during his term. His passing is a tremendous loss for all of us, and I personally will use Jerry's memory in this moment to rekindle devotion and commitment to our commission and to our industry, and to each member of the commission, and to the Travel Oregon staff, and to our industry colleagues, past and present. I thank you from the bottom of my heart. Sorry. And, with that, we've got a full agenda. So, commissioners, if anybody has anything to add, please do at this time, and or we can proceed with the agenda.
I guess I just wanted to thank all of the public comment, and Scott, thank you for your comments. As Chair Youngblood said so eloquently, there have been so many people that have built this industry, and were some incredibly talented team members that, sadly, because of the pandemic, we had to lay off. And I think I speak for everyone at this table that we recognize the contribution that they made, and I just hope that this industry, we can get this industry back so that we can get people back working again. So I just want to thank you for your comments, Scott.
Thank you, Lucinda. Commissioners, anyone else? All right. Well, then we will do some of the official commission business. I'd like to confirm that everyone has received and had an opportunity to review their commission packets, including the financials. Just looking for, it's nice to be able to look around the room instead of that stupid flat screen for acknowledgement. And I'd also like to thank Commissioner Boyles for reviewing the financials with myself, with Commissioner DeNovo, Todd, and Kathleen prior to this meeting. Richard, would you like to take a moment and provide an update on the financials?
Thank you, Chair Youngblood. As you said, we met and reviewed the financials, including the most recent financials for the fiscal year to date, which were included in our commission materials and have been posted to the industry website. We were informed that with the January deposit, we had received 70% of the budget, which, when adjusting for the TLT rate change, puts us up about 3% from the same time as fiscal year 20. And that with the most recent deposit last week, fiscal year to date transient lodging tax revenue is at $28.4 million. Pardon me. And this equates to 93% of our $30.7 million budget. This is up about 13% from where we typically are this time of year. This increase is in alignment with the revised revenue forecast we received just last month, and we look forward to our June meeting where we will consider a budget modification for the remainder of the 21-23 biennial budget. There are a couple of additional things to note. During our financials call, Kathleen also let us know that that a recent agreed-upon procedures review of in-house and internal controls, along with policies and procedures, has been performed, and that no significant findings were found. The approved report has been submitted to the Legislative Fiscal Office and the Secretary of State's office. We also recently received notice that Travel Oregon received a financial commendation from the state's chief financial officer and has been awarded, again, the Gold Star certificate, this time for fiscal year 2021. The Gold Star is the highest award that states give agencies. It's equivalent to the nationally recognized GFOA Certificate of Achievement for Excellence in Financial Reporting, and it recognizes accurate, complete, and timely financial reporting. Chair Youngblood, that concludes the financial report.
Thank you, thank you, thank you. Commissioners, one of you, Commissioner Willits, was it you who asked the question, how many consecutive years has Travel Oregon received this honor? And here with the answer somewhere in the room, she's going to kill me for this, is Kathleen Stewart, the celebrity responsible for this. Kathleen, are you able to stand up for just a moment? Please don't be mad at me. Oh. How many years has it been, Kathleen? Or maybe a year?
As far as I knew, it's been since inception of the agency. So at least I think over 7 years now, and we've received it every year since.
Congratulations again, and thank you, Kathleen and team. It's not a distinction that can or should be taken lightly, and it's sometimes upsetting when someone makes something look easy because Lord knows it isn't. Commissioners, does anyone else have thoughts or comments, questions relating to the financials? All right then. Well, as you all know, we received remarkable feedback regarding the Travel Oregon 10-year transformational strategy. The public comment period for that concluded on February 21st, and this may be the most engaged our industry has ever been with the consideration of a new strategy. We have read I'm trying to remember, I guess I won't be able to remember how many comments, but there were pages of comments that we were able to read through. And of course, those have been shared to the industry site on the strategic plan page. At this time, I'd like to ask Todd for a status update since our last meeting. There was an awful lot of dialogue on the topic of this transformational strategy, and a lot of work has been done in terms of its evolution and what's next. And here's Todd to talk about that.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As you noted, there was a lot of great comment, and there was a lot of great conversation that ensued during our last commission meeting, and there was comment that continued to come in following that commission meeting up to the time that the comment period closed, as you noted, on February 21st. Just a lot of really thoughtful feedback that had come in, and a lot of great insights that had come in from industry colleagues, as well as were shared by the commissioners during that meeting. And I just want to echo what Scott had said, that we were really all very moved by the comments and how very thoughtful both the comment, the feedback, and the insight were to us as we move forward. There were a number of very clear, we thought, primary themes that really resonated through that feedback, and so we're anticipating revisions that are going to elevate the economic development role and the contributions of Travel Oregon and the industry, and to make sure that we're expanding that historical foundation, that context that goes back to 2003 and speaks to that relationship, the negotiations that occurred. Sometimes with the staff, I refer to it as the grand bargain that occurred back in 2003, when we really looked at the courage of the lodging sector in Oregon to say, go ahead and tax our customers, but here's what we want in return. We want to make sure 100% of that revenue from the statewide lodging tax goes to Travel Oregon. We want to make sure that protections are being put in place over the use of local lodging taxes. And those things were done. And if you don't recall the 2003 session, as well as some of us in this room that were walking the halls in those days, it was the longest session on record, and this bill was one of the first bills introduced and one of the last bills to pass out. So it was not without its earnest discussion as well. But to make sure that context, that understanding, even the way the makeup of the commission changed in that bill. And so to make sure that those things are codified really in this transformational strategy, so that legacy and that history carries forward over the course of the next decade. Given the uniqueness of drafting a 10-year transformational strategy, the staff will remain responsible for making the revisions and guiding that part of the revision process. However, we have recommended, and the commission leadership has concurred, that we should form a review committee to work with the staff when they're undertaking those reviews, and that these revisions will be made well in advance of this next commission meeting that's coming up in June, so that there'll be further opportunity for review by the commission and by our industry colleagues. That review committee will include 3 commissioners, Commissioners Boyles, DeNovo, and Pendleton, along with representatives from both the Oregon Destination Association and the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association. You may recall, and we talked about it a little bit at our last meeting, that it's in statute that when we are working on strategic plans, in this case a transformational strategy, a transformational framework, that there's a statutory requirement that we're sharing that out with the industry trade associations. And those industry trade associations have evolved since 2003 when the bill passed, but we still envision those as the Oregon Restaurant and Lodging Association and the Oregon Destination Association. So in that spirit, we've asked both of those organizations to name a designee to serve on this review committee with the 3 commissioners that I named earlier. So it's my intention then to have the staff that are going to be working on the revisions meet with this review committee at the onset. Having, everyone on the review committee will have reviewed all of the public comments that have come in. We can agree upon a revision process, and then we can begin the revision process in earnest and provide updates then to this review committee as we progress. And the goal, as I said, is to then have a final draft that will be shared ahead of the June commission meeting, so that we can consider final comments and adopt the 10-year strategy and budget modification at the June commission meeting. So, Mr. Chairman, that is my report on the update of the status of the transformational strategy. Happy to answer any questions.
Commissioners.
Well, Commissioner, I'm glad I'm not going to sit here speechless. But I want to say in regards to the transformational strategy plan that I'm happy to see that, Todd, you're taking immediate action, okay, as the commission as well. And so I've read all the public comments. I've gone back through and reviewed a lot of the work sessions with 100+ people that participated. And I just want to ensure everyone here that their voices, their comments will be considered as we continue to move forward. So I'm looking forward to participating. Thanks.
Brilliant. Thank you. Thank you.
I agree with David. I think that at the last commission meeting, we gave Todd some marching orders, and Todd got them done in short order. So thank you for that. And I look forward to serving on that committee with you and Vice Chair Boyle. So thank you.
I guess I will add, I look forward to serving on the committee as well and helping to mold this plan. There is a lot of work remaining to do to really respond to the comments that we received, and I'm hopeful that we can get that done ahead of the June meeting.
Nice, nice, nice. Thank you. Thank you all. Commissioners, any other commentary, thoughts, questions, ideas? Okay. Well, now for the exciting part, commission action. It's not as exciting as it sounds, admittedly. Have each of you had the opportunity to review the February 15th minutes? And do you have questions or comments about the last meeting minutes? Yeah? No. No.
Who did last time? Gabriella. Oh. Okay. My comment is then directed towards Gabriella because my public comments, when put into concise words, sounded really great. And I really appreciate that. I tend to use too many words to get my point across, and I appreciated seeing a concise statement there. Thank you.
I was going to say I agree with Greg. Nice job on that. No, it was really great minutes. It was a very long meeting and a lot of good things said, so I'm glad it was all captured so well. On that note, I would move to approve the minutes if you're looking for a motion.
This is all moving so fast. We have a motion. No, that's perfect. No, yeah, and you are of action. So we have a motion. We have a second. All in favor, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
And now the suspenseful, are there nays? Okay, the February 15th commission meeting minutes are approved and will be posted to the commission section of the Travel Oregon Industry website. And Gabriella, thank you for making us all seem competent and eloquent. It's maybe the biggest job in the whole organization. Next, friends, a nominating committee is appointed annually to engage with one another and to submit recommendations as to who should serve as the next chair and vice chair of the Oregon Tourism Commission. And as I will not be seeking a reappointment, and because Commissioner Anway's term on the commission is going to sunset this June, Dawn and I will serve as the nominating committee and will return with recommendations for your consideration at the June commission meeting. Anyone have questions, discussions, or thoughts about that process? Right on. Then the next process we'll discuss is the fact that each year the commission completes a review of the performance of our CEO. This process will inform, the process to inform that review will be led by Vice Chair Boyles, Commissioner DeNovo, and myself, and will include, but not be limited to, seeking input from statewide stakeholders, tourism professionals, other agencies, and of course direct input from our Oregon tourism commissioners themselves to discuss action on the review. Do any of you have questions relating to the evaluation process? Okay. Well, then I think I'm going to turn it back over to Todd because he can bring up members of staff for the real meat and potatoes, and we can hopefully receive some industry updates.
All right. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. And the first item I'd like to ask the commission to undertake before bringing up other members of the staff team is something you heard two comments related to during our public comment period, and that is reestablishing a minimum threshold for regions for the Regional Cooperative Tourism Program. This was something that was established prior to the pandemic, and as was noted, perhaps not with specific percentages, but Lizzie in particular talked about the difference in terms of the regions. And for new commissioners, what you may or may not know is by statute, 20% of the revenue that comes from the statewide lodging tax is invested in the administration of and programming for the Regional Cooperative Tourism Program. Those dollars are shared out with each of the regions on a pro rata basis. So what we have is the dollars going into the Regional Cooperative Tourism Program, and you know, at some points in the past, if I think back to pre-pandemic, the range could be from 4% to 40% in each of the regions. And so the commission had determined, and there'd been a recommendation from the staff team at the time to set a minimum amount. And we're asking, since we're at this point now where we're beginning to experience that recovery, you've heard some reference to that already in the financials report that Vice Chair Boyles gave earlier, that for this next fiscal, we reestablished that minimum. While it doesn't require specific commission action, you're certainly welcome to vote, but consensus will give us the guidance that we need to be able to build a budget that would then establish that floor. So what it means is two of the regions would receive their RCTP funds, and then additional resource will be added to those from other sources at Travel Oregon to bring them up to the floor. And so that you know, and as was included in the advance materials that were in your strategic plan progress report, there would be $13,000 for the Mount Hood Gorge region and $54,000 for the Eastern Oregon region to bring those two regions up to that minimum amount. And as I said, those would come from different sources within Travel Oregon. So I would just ask at this time if you have any questions about that particular action. And as I said, a motion is not necessary, but I am looking at least for general direction, consensus, head nods. Any of those are appropriate and welcome. That you're good with us moving forward, and if so, we will progress. We'll inform the regions of that, although I think they're in the room. We will inform the regions of that news and begin building a budget accordingly that we bring back to you in June that will reflect that. Okay? Not seeing any questions, and I'm seeing
maybe perhaps just reinforcement of the statement that you just made, that this isn't robbing Peter to pay, it's not robbing Portland to pay Pendleton. The point is that it's not a reallocation of pro rata share, but rather supplementing from outside of the RCTP, from other resources within the Travel Oregon budget, the supplemental funds necessary to bring all boats up to a higher tide. And I continue to be incredibly supportive of the process and what it means for reasons that Lizzie articulated today and others.
No, thank you for that clarification, Scott. That's exactly right. These are dollars that come from outside the RCTP program. That 20% is sacrosanct, and so 20% goes into that program. These are funds outside the RCTP program. David?
I'm happy that we're looking at this because, as I thought about it in terms of, from inflationary or looking at the equity, and especially in Eastern Oregon, how does that look? And so it's something that we need to do a deep dive into. And then as it was brought to my attention as well, looking at the capacity, from a management standpoint and other resources, it makes good business sense to really do a deep dive and ensure that we're supporting each region.
Mm-hmm. Thanks, David. All right. Thank you. We have the direction that we need, and I'm sure there are representatives in in the room from both Eastern Oregon and the Mount Hood Gorge region that will know what, as they move forward with their regional plans for this next fiscal year, what that dollar amount will be for their planning purposes. So, all right, as we jump into the reports and updates and discussions, I want to acknowledge it. I can't let this go by. I'm looking at the front two rows here on the right-hand side, and both Thelma and Dave are like going, what the heck is he going to do next? It's been commented how, you know, we're very much in a people business. And here we are with this opportunity for us to be able to come back together, and some for the first time, some having been to many of these conventions and conferences, and I find it uncanny that Dave and Thelma are sitting this close to one another, because Dave Perullo, if you haven't met Dave, make sure you get a chance to do that, but Dave is with the Washington County Visitors Association, and new Oregonian, new to that role, and he's sitting immediately behind Thelma Hagenmiller. Thelma, as we all know, is with Slowpoke Tours. And this is Thelma's 30th Governor's Conference. So Thelma, well done. All right, the first report that I'd like to ask the staff to bring forward at this time is a grants update, and Michelle Woodard, who is the grants manager with Travel Oregon, is going to walk us through this update. Michelle, good to see you.
I had to bring my reading glasses. I realized it was kind of dark. I'm not going to be able to see this. Good afternoon, commissioners. So wonderful to be here with you all in person. As Todd said, I'm Michelle Woodard, grants manager here at Travel Oregon, and fittingly, I'm offering you a grants update. So, all right, I'd like to start with a program that Travel Oregon is in the midst of developing. The Oregon Outdoor Recreation Outfitters and Guides Relief Grant Program is an outcome of Senate Bill 5561. In December, the legislature appropriated $10 million from the general fund to the Oregon Business Development Department for Travel Oregon to administer a one-time program. This program will provide grants to outdoor recreation outfitters and guides that were financially impacted by the restrictions of the COVID-19 pandemic, as well as by service disruptions related to drought or wildfire. And it's not as well, it's or related to disruptions of wildfire or drought. Travel Oregon developed an internal team to move forward with this project. There's representation on this team from the grants team, operations, communications, and the office of the CEO. It's been a coordinated effort to not only align internally, but with other state agencies as well, specifically Business Oregon and the Oregon State Marine Board. As much as we'd like to immediately get these dollars into the hands of those impacted outfitters and guides, these aren't Travel Oregon funds, so we can't be quite as nimble as we've been in the past. That nimbleness really speaks to the value and the importance of Travel Oregon's status as a semi-independent state agency. These dollars need to be transferred from Business Oregon to Travel Oregon, and in order for that to take place, an interagency agreement has to be developed. Currently, that work is being done at the Department of Justice. While this agreement is being finalized, we haven't slowed down behind the scenes. We're prioritizing this program over the competitive grants to make sure that these dollars are allocated as soon as possible. We've drafted rules and guidelines for the program that are currently under review with the Department of Justice. We've conducted preliminary outreach to an advisory committee comprised of an RDMO, the Oregon State Marine Board, and 4 outfitter guides. This group provides us with diverse perspectives and regional representation with an emphasis in areas that have faced drought and wildfire impacts. This committee will review the drafted rules and guidelines and be asked to provide feedback on 3 questions surrounding the guidelines. Is the information clear? Did we miss anything? and looking through the lens of reaching as many impacted registered Oregon outfitters and guides as possible, are the requirements feasible? We've outlined a communications plan in coordination with the Marine Board, and those eligible for funding will be contacted directly. Personally, I feel really good about where this program is headed. We have the pieces in place to fairly and equitably award funding to as many impacted outdoor recreation outfitters and guides as possible. You'll be hearing more about this in the coming weeks. Before I jump into the competitive grants program for 2022, I want to share a few highlights from the competitive and recovery grants. Pictured here is new signage for the Portland Mercado, as well as the fencing and colorful new mural to help celebrate and showcase the authentic experiences and incredible diversity within this community. Teresa O'Neill was able to attend a celebration at the Mercado on behalf of Travel Oregon, in which the mural was unveiled, and there was a tremendous amount of gratitude for these dollars. The Lincoln City Parks and Recreation Department installed 16 interpretive signs at the entry point to 7 open space trails. This is a project that had been in the works prior to COVID, but had stalled due to a lack of funding. A local artist completed all the artwork, and though it's difficult to see, there's the ability to download detailed trail maps in both English and Spanish by scanning QR codes. You can see the mayor conducting the official ribbon cutting and a group of students who had volunteered to work on trail maintenance. I was able to attend this event, and it was truly a community-driven project. They asked how many people had been asked by visitors to find the Knoll trailhead, and hands were coming up all over the place. So definitely a place where this signage was needed. Lincoln City understands the economic impact that visitors have on their community, and they're actively finding ways to enhance and expand that visitor experience. Next is a short video that Travel Oregon's destination development and marketing teams produced, and looking to dive deeper into some of the investments that were made in the midst of the pandemic, and showcasing the resiliency of those businesses and organizations that had received funding.
This raw space turned into a magical place for the summer. Something like nearly 500 musicians took the stage. And really, more than just entertainment, it was employment, and it was hope for our team and our industry and the contractors and vendors who haven't had work. We've survived the pandemic for 2 years, but our job is more important than ever. As people become divided, we need to get people together and show why Portland, why Oregonians can do this and how we're doing this. And it starts one day at a time, one person at a time. Portland is going to move forward because we care too much to let it not.
So what a positive message of hope. And I love the call to action of rediscover an event near you. So it seems very fitting for all of us that are in the room today, as well as those that are coming to attend the conference. So very fitting. So what's next? Well, as grants manager, I'm asked 2 questions repeatedly about grants. When will your next grant cycle open? And am I eligible, or is my project eligible for funding? So 2 very good and valid questions. In terms of timeline, we're looking at applications for the program to open this summer. We're planning to meet with the RDMOs in the next few weeks as we start the process of developing our grant guidelines. It's our intention to have those guidelines in place by late spring. And one point of emphasis that I believe will be a component of the guidelines will be project readiness. Are the pieces in place? Do you have a clear direction that you're headed? Those are some of the key pieces. So as we saw in those projects that were highlighted earlier, they had a clear need and they had a clear direction. Travel Oregon is once again partnering with the Oregon Cultural Trust in the Conversation with Funders series, which will take place in April. Hopefully those event dates will be announced later this week. And this is a great avenue for those looking for funding to be able to share their project ideas. And finally, I want to emphasize the value of this funding. The value that it's a consistent funding source. 10% of Travel Oregon's budget will go back to communities through grants. As we move forward, we also understand the value of having a consistent time frame for when we open our competitive grants. So that is something that we're also working towards. That's all I have. So good to see all of you again, and thank you.
All right. Michelle, thank you very much. Commissioners, questions for Michelle?
I just want to say you always bring hope. You always bring the good news, and I love it when you tell us what's going on. It's wonderful. I have been asked, is there training for folks who are not as familiar with how to apply for a grant, really small towns? Can people go online? Is that easy to find so that they can understand how to apply for grants?
We don't have a great setup right now, but one thing that I will say is, as part of this connection that we're making with the Oregon Cultural Trust, is a grant writing training. So we are working with a gal. We actually had hosted just a virtual lunchtime training back in last year in 2020 by the same person, Allison Shirk, who's done a lot of grant writing sessions in the virtual space. And so we're going to have something which folks that register for those conversation with funders will have access to, but we're also working with her to be able to put some of this resource on our website, so on the industry website, so that we are able to connect better with those people that are like, oh, what's my starting point? How do I find these funds, and what are some of the basic steps I need to be able to move forward and be awarded grants?
That's great. I think that's really important to get it out to folks who are not as familiar with grant writing, so appreciate that. And also, I'm excited about the outfitters, what's going to happen with $10 million. I'm wondering, do you have a sense of how many folks we might be able to help out? Is there a general idea of?
Yeah, we are working with the Marine Board because everyone has to have been licensed with the Marine Board as of March of 2020. So it is a pretty specific list of folks that are eligible to apply. And it looks like, from what we've seen thus far, it'll be probably around 1,100 people that are eligible.
Fantastic. Thank you, Michelle.
I just want to say thank you for the update. But my question, you mentioned the guidelines that you're working on a draft right now. And is that, I think you mentioned that's inclusive of the RDMO. Is that all 7 regions or just a select?
Well, we actually haven't started work yet on the guidelines. And so as one of our first steps, that's meeting with the regions, and it would be meeting with all 7 regions.
Okay.
To begin discussions about what these guidelines would look like.
Thanks.
Yeah.
Any other questions? I'm not seeing any. Michelle, thanks so much.
Thank you.
Always a great report and update. Appreciate it. Commissioners, it is now my pleasure to ask Hillary Sager, who is a Destination Development Manager at Travel Oregon, and Gavi, I know better. Gavi Duarte, who is our Global Sales Program Manager, and they're going to provide us with an update on a program that has been specifically created in the digital space to help tourism businesses, especially those small businesses across the state. So, Gavi, Hillary, I'll turn it over to you.
Thanks, Todd. Let me scoot a little closer here. Hello, Chair Youngblood and members of the Commission. It's nice to be with you here today. About a year ago, at the Commission meeting prior to the 2021 Governor's Conference, Kelda and I shared an update with you about the virtual marketing trainings the global marketing and destination development teams had been collaborating on to offer businesses in the tourism industry during the pandemic. At the end of that update, You may recall I shared a preview of another program that was underway with the goal of offering individualized marketing support for businesses. Now called the Digital Marketing Boost Program, the program was designed to respond to the needs of small and medium-sized tourism businesses navigating an increasingly important part of their business, how to effectively reach and communicate with their customers online. The program goals are focused on the digital marketing growth of businesses, beginning with increasing business awareness of the current state of their digital marketing, then highlighting potential opportunities for growth and providing the education, training, and direct assistance to help move the needle on the top areas in need of improvement. In terms of deliverables, the program provides each participating business a report detailing the state of their digital marketing efforts derived from a thorough assessment conducted by a marketing consultant. The report covers everything from website to social media to booking platforms and business listings, going into depth in each area to provide takeaways and clearly identify action items for the businesses. The assessment mechanism itself was developed in close collaboration with Travel Oregon's marketing department to follow current digital marketing best practices and align with other Travel Oregon marketing initiatives, including the local program that utilizes Google Business Profile information to help power the Otis database. After receiving the assessment findings reports for their businesses, the program also provides each business with a set amount of support hours from marketing consultants to implement the top 1 to 3 recommended action items surfaced in their report. This could include things like installing a security certificate for their website, creating a search engine optimization strategy, doing a content audit, or setting up an e-newsletter. At the end of 2021, we wrapped up the first 4 pilot projects under the Digital Marketing Boost program, all of which were funded through the first round of Destination Ready programming. Across the 4 projects, we were able to reach 62 businesses, including from 2 different Oregon food trails, a winery association, and a farm stay association. Feedback was collected from participating businesses using an evaluation survey, and the results were overwhelmingly positive. One business said, "I'm thrilled that we had the opportunity to work with a marketing specialist. The feedback was excellent, and all of the changes suggested were doable. It pushed us to up our game, and now we have a website designer and someone to help us market regularly." Another business reported increased web traffic that resulted in being busier than ever after implementing some of the recommendations in their report. One of the organizations that received Destination Ready funding to roll out this program with their business members said, "After feeling as though we were fighting a wildfire with a garden hose during COVID-19, it was wonderful to provide businesses with the opportunity to have their digital presence reviewed and find ways to improve and succeed in the future." Of the surveyed businesses, 87% found the program extremely or very valuable, and 90% were very or extremely likely to recommend participating in the program to another business. Due to the timing of the Destination Ready program, the first 4 projects took place over the late spring to early fall timeframe, which we know is not an easy time for businesses to engage. We have since implemented timing recommendations into the program framework to target off-peak seasons when businesses have more bandwidth to participate and work with the consultants. We also heard from businesses that the implementation support provided was hugely valuable. So in response, we created more robust systems to facilitate that component of the program and bake it in as a required deliverable. All of this work has prepared us to offer the program in an even stronger format to a new set of businesses. We are currently working with 17 guides and outfitters through our Y Guides program to provide the Digital Marketing Boost assessment and assistance, as well as global sales trainings and support that Gavi is here to tell you a bit more about.
Thanks, Hillary. When Hillary approached me about doing the digital marketing assessment, it seemed ideal for our Y Guides, as most of them are small operations with limited time and resources. We had the budget to support up to 20 guides through this process and kick things off with 17 total applicants. For a program that offered so much assistance to a small business, we felt there was room to work cross-functionally and incorporate additional goals of the agency. In the global sales department, our international clients and domestic group operators have really embraced the Y Guides program and love what it offers their clients. However, we don't have a lot of tours and attractions working in the travel trade supply chain with receptive inbound operators. Having more product offerings in this channel would greatly complement the work that we've done with Y-Guides. So we brought in Alon Marketing from IITA, a Domestic Inbound Operator Association, to launch the Steps to Success program. This program offered a 3-part workshop series that walked Oregon partners through the importance of international visitation, explained the operator supply chain, and gave attendees real-world tools and examples of working in travel trade. As a requirement of the digital marketing assessment for Y-Guides, all 17 guides and outfitters attended the first session, with many returning for the second session. Our third and final session will be on March 31st, where we will discuss developing product and pricing for inbound operators and hope to sign up at least 10 new tours and attractions to sell at IPW, our largest travel trade show in the US, in June. From the Global Marketing Department, we know that responsible visitation messaging is important, especially when we can target visitors who have a confirmed trip to Oregon. Incorporating another agency goal into the Y-Guides digital marketing assessment, the program requires responsible visitation messaging, including our TCOT messaging, to visitors who have booked a tour with their business. This is the final piece of the marketing assessment, and we are working now with Global Marketing to finalize that messaging and output for participating businesses. This wonderful marketing boost program that the Destination Development team brought to the table grew beautifully into a way to accomplish a number of agency goals to better support and promote our Y-Guides participants.
Thanks, Gabi. In addition to the Y-Guides assessments currently underway, we also have recently completed a robust toolkit for the Digital Marketing Boost program. The toolkit includes a thorough program handbook and supporting templates for all components of the assessment and assistance processes. We intend to make the program toolkit available as a resource to industry partners who are interested in offering this type of marketing assistance to their business constituents. The exact procedure for how the industry can tap into that toolkit is currently being determined and will be shared through the industry newsletter soon. As for the Travel Oregon-led efforts, we plan to continue offering this program to businesses engaging in Travel Oregon programs like the Oregon Food Trails and Y-Guides in the coming fiscal year, with the full extent of future applications that would be led by Travel Oregon teams still under consideration. The great thing about this program is the abundance of opportunities there are to utilize it in service of specific business sectors within the tourism industry, since it's so widely applicable and valuable to all types of businesses. So our challenge will be in determining where to start. So with that, thank you for your time, and we'd love to answer any questions.
Hillary, Gabi, thank you so much. Never a shortage of opportunities, like you acknowledged, but you bring such a thoughtful, strategic, and really careful approach to this for optimum impact for a lot of these small businesses across the state. So really nicely done. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Hillary and for Gabi?
A question, I just want to say, I think you know this, I'm 100% in support of this program. I think the most important thing for me right now is to get our hands around what the resources actually are and the budget that's required to ensure that we're able to do what we say we're going to do in terms of helping statewide. So I look forward to continue to learn more about this program and the work that you guys are doing. Thank you.
Thanks.
I'd also like to say that I really commend the work that Travel Oregon is putting into this area. Travel Oregon is such a leader when it comes to marketing, and small business owners are so often challenged with their priorities between what's urgent and what's important. And especially during the last few years of the pandemic, when business owners have been, giving 210% to try to change on a daily basis to keep a tourism-related business operating, having the resources of Travel Oregon focused in this way really helps businesses up-level what they're doing from a marketing standpoint and creates a better destination for everybody visiting Oregon. So I agree this is a wonderful way for Travel Oregon to leverage resources and expertise to make a huge impact across the state for small businesses in the realm of tourism. So thanks for all your work on this. It's amazing.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thanks, Erin. Any other questions or comments at this time? Richard, please.
It is very promising work, I think. You mentioned you had the capacity to support 20 guides and only 17 signed up. I'm curious about the outreach, and I guess the real question is if you have resources to support another 3, or are there resources to support more? How will that, what do you expect to do with, I guess, either the extra resources or reaching out to more folks?
Gabi might be able to speak to the outreach piece, but I can tell you what our current plan is. Now that there have only been 17 guides and we anticipated 20, we are planning on making those excess funds available just for additional support budget for businesses among the 17 that might need extra assistance. So we're going to kind of determine that as we go through the process.
And the initial outreach for the program went out to our registered Y guides, which is a list of about 80 guides and outfitters, but we also did tap our Togo base camp, which is any of the guides and outfitters that we've touched over the last several years. So there were, I would say, about 300 on that list, maybe more.
It's a big group, yeah.
Yeah, so it's a big group of folks. We were quite shocked, too, that there weren't necessarily 20 there that we were able to support, but again, time and resources is always super limited with these small businesses. So I believe that probably played a role.
Yeah, I'm sure that is the reality. Thank you.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Thank you, Richard. Mia?
So again, I love this program. I think it's very unique, and like Erin said, it's going to help so many businesses. So are you planning on having the same program again next year? And so what's the future?
Yeah, I think, I spoke to that a little bit just in that it's still sort of up for consideration. I think we have some easy ways to continue offering the program in terms of working with businesses that are sort of already in a Travel Oregon program, whether it's continuing to work with Y Guides or the many, I think there's 500 businesses that are participating in one of the 11 Oregon food trails. So we have kind of that net has already been cast, and we have those businesses that we've been working with already who we could easily sort of connect to this program, but we haven't yet decided exactly what that will look like. It'll depend on, how much budget we have and capacity in the next fiscal year. But we do plan to run it in this winter, kind of late fall to early spring time frame, probably each year, as long as we're able to, so that we can get better business engagement.
And we do plan to follow up with the Y Guides to see how the program went for them. And of course, Y Guides is a growing program. This seemed like a really big win. So hopefully, if the response was great from those participating businesses, it would be something that we could bring back. Yeah.
As I think about this, it really highlights the diversity potential what the state has to offer. And I've gone to many of the trade shows with you, like the IPW and what have you. But having a central database with this information is so helpful to respond to a lot of the requests that's out there. So I'm excited about it.
Yeah,
thank you.
We are too.
Yeah.
What was 2 meetings ago, you reported, I think we had 67 Y Guides, is that right?
Yeah, it had grown since the last report, yeah.
Okay,
yeah.
okay. So how are we going to tap the 300 that you referenced?
I know, that's a great question. Those 300, that list of guides and outfitters were also tapped to be a part of the Y Guides registry, as well as through our e-newsletter. So we really tried to hit as many channels as we could to invite people to participate. And then, yeah, as I said, I sometimes don't know why everyone wouldn't sign up for something like that. But the hope is to possibly reopen the registry in the future and get more folks on board so that we can do the same some uplift and promotion of them as well.
Okay, thank you. Thank you for all your work in this space.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
What RDMOs could be equally as supportive and help you to get this out, so that, you know, a one-person operation or what have you in Eastern Oregon or wherever it may be may see the opportunities there, because I think there's value here.
Definitely. Yeah. Well, we are having a Y Guide session tomorrow. Let me just plug that. Because it really is ultimately incredibly accessible and just gives us more information to be able to share our awesome Oregon story, especially because it features amazing Oregon people that take our guests out and take care of them. So, yeah, we'll be talking about that a little bit more. Thank you.
We talk about Y Guides and the Digital Marketing Boost program. I'm just constantly reminded, one, that as commissioners, it's a full-time job just trying to hang on and keep up with you. Anytime I have a conversation with Gabi, I have to try to write the acronyms. TCOT. TCOT. Take care up there, roger that. Okay. Yeah. And there was another one that I'm going to have to ask you about later. At any rate, the responsiveness, the nimbleness, the way in which you are adapting, and it, you know, it kind of fits in with commentary that we received earlier. It fits in with some of Todd's messaging earlier. It's the innovation, the passion that you all bring to your work and to the benefit of those whom you serve. It's just, no one does it on this scale. And it also reminded me of Michelle's comment, which can't be overstated, the benefits of this agency's status as a semi-independent in order to be able to move quickly, in order to be able to apply resource where it can be meaningful as urgently as possible. I'm just so grateful, so impressed, and just thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Scott. Gabi, Hillary, thank you so very much. Great update. You can tell it's good to be back together because we don't always applaud after the staff presentations, but I'm glad you're doing it because they've earned that. So thank you for that, both to the commission and to you in the audience as well. In that spirit, our next update is coming to us from our global marketing team, Kevin Wright, our VP of Global Marketing, and Brian Mullaney, who is our Insight and Planning Manager. With the global marketing team, will be providing us with an advertising update. So Kevin, I will turn it over to you.
Thanks, Todd. Good afternoon, commissioners.
Can we begin applauding now?
Start now. It's great to see you all here in person. Great to be in Sun River. We have a couple of presentations we're going to share with you this afternoon. First, I should probably, you know me, but for everyone else, I'm Kevin Wright. I'm the Vice President of Global Marketing at Travel Oregon. And we have two presentations. Brian Mullaney, our Global Marketing Insights and Planning Manager, is going to, oh, there he is. Wow, you are omnipresent. Wow. Yeah. Somebody take a picture of this for Brian. This is fantastic. Brian's going to share a brief recap on our Oregon Slightly Exaggerated, our third edition of that campaign, per Commissioner Pendleton's request at our last meeting. And then I will give you guys a peek ahead at what we're planning against and looking at for the next 9 months. So with that, I will turn it over to the man on the ceiling.
Thank you, everyone. Thanks, Kevin. Good afternoon, commissioners. Today I'll be covering the lead up and results of our final installment of our Only Slightly Exaggerated campaign. While the focus of this presentation is on our Only Slightly Exaggerated 3 campaign, I wanted to reground everyone in the comeback strategy coming out of our advertising hiatus following the pandemic travel restrictions. In preparation, we get one slide forward. There we go. In preparation for the quarantine and travel restrictions being lifted, we work closely with our advertising partners to prepare back-to-back marketing campaigns designed to announce Oregon's reopening to travel and tourism. While some of the neighboring states continued with inspirational marketing during the height of the pandemic, Travel Oregon, in collaboration with OHA and the governor's office, ceased all inspirational marketing initiatives. Once conditions allowed, we expanded upon our safe travel, economic resiliency, and stewardship messaging and launched our inspirational campaigns with the goal of reclaiming lost market share. Part one of the campaign was called Welcome to Oregon Again and focused on encouraging Oregonians to travel safely within the state. Following closely on the heels of our Welcome to Oregon campaign, we launched our highly anticipated final installment of our only slightly exaggerated campaign. The goal for this campaign was to generate awareness from our neighboring states and Oregonians alike that Oregon was open and ready for travelers. These crucial campaigns vaulted Oregon back into top-of-mind awareness for regional travelers. For the OSC3 campaign, our $2.8 million budget generated over 1 billion impressions for active adventurers aged 25 to 54 in the markets listed here. Because this campaign focused on the people and culture of Oregon, it was important to ensure that it accurately represented the diverse communities of Oregon and was inclusive and welcoming for people for all backgrounds. We executed our most extensive DEI work to date for this campaign by conducting 6 focus groups. 4 focus groups were conducted with the internal affinity groups at Wyden and Kennedy, We Black, Latinx, Agency, and W Queer. We had 2 focus groups that were conducted with the Travel Oregon fans who live both in and out of state. We solicited participation from members of historically marginalized communities, including BIPOC, LGBTQ+, and ADA communities. We also worked very closely with the Confederated Tribes of the Umatilla Indian Reservation on a key scene of the video to ensure accurate representation of their culture. We received great information from over 7 hours of conversations and used the takeaways to influence our creative direction throughout all OSC3 creative and content. Along with our commitment to DEI, we developed specific advertising tactics as well. This strategy encompassed 2 primary tactics. The first focused on ensuring that we were delivering advertising impressions to Black, Hispanic, and Asian audiences. We based our buy off an average of delivered impressions from census breakouts for each target market. We'll cover those results later in the presentation. Our second advertising tactic was to show up authentically for these BIPOC audiences by working with custom content partners trusted by these groups. These partnerships included Me Too and Vice. We also work closely with Influential to select local influencers showing high engagement with the BIPOC audience. These partners allowed us to deliver advertising impressions from a trusted and focused group of individuals. Now let's dive into some of the high-level results for OSC3. With all our campaigns, there is always a balance between awareness and traffic and conversions. Depending upon our goals, we will shift the balance in one direction or the other. Being an awareness-driving campaign, video ads were heavily featured as they remain an excellent format for driving awareness. Going on our third, only slightly exaggerated video, however, we knew that it was unlikely that it would generate the same extraordinary viral reaction of our first OSC video. While this video generated the lowest number of views of all of our OSC3 videos, it still far surpassed expectations, generating 2.4 million video views in the 11 weeks. That is why it is so important to introduce fresh, innovative content every few years, and why we are working so hard on the Extraordinary is Ordinary campaign. Complementary to awareness is traffic or conversions. Once people are aware of and excited about Oregon, we want them to engage with us on traveloregon.com. Because of that, our second most important KPI from an advertising perspective is sessions generated from advertising clicks. We know from prior campaigns tracked by Arrivalist that travelers who see our ads and then our website are 3.4 times more likely to travel to Oregon than those just seeing our ads or our website in isolation. Sessions generated from campaign advertising dollars generated 382,000 sessions, which represented a 49% increase in traffic generated from our OSC2 campaign. The OSC3 campaign showcased the magic of Oregon, inspiring travel, exploration, and wonder. Throughout the campaign, we received both positive and negative responses across all of our assets and platforms, including Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok. But if there was one thing that our audience agreed upon, it was the beauty of our campaign assets. As social media continues to dominate our culture, community management becomes ever more important. As we manage expected negative sentiment around Portland, masking, and travel, we were surrounded with an overwhelming amount of positivity for our campaign and our community. Bryn King mentioned, of all the state travel accounts, Travel Oregon got the best bids. Might be biased though. And Tony Hayden affirmed that there is no place on earth like Oregon. We also received positive press from major travel outlets like Skiff and the Travel Vertical. Skiff highlighted that our ad was hitting the right notes at a time when we were all looking to feel the magic of travel again. And the Travel Vertical called our campaign a return with another smash hit. New for this fiscal year, the Travel Oregon marketing team identified 6 specific DEI marketing KPIs related to our advertising. Our primary DEI KPI for this campaign was tracking advertising impressions by race. We started our attempt to track these impressions with our Welcome to Oregon Again campaign and refined our methods going into OSC3. But in full transparency, I'll admit that tracking these impressions is not easy. Many advertising partners do not track their ad inventory or impressions by race. But thanks to the social justice movement, the demand for this level of accountability is growing. Working very closely with Wieden & Kennedy, we were able to develop a plan that allowed us maximum, but still limited visibility into where our impressions were being delivered. In the end, we met or exceeded all of our goals except for the Asian audience. We'll take the learnings of this campaign and develop strategies that allow us more room for optimization throughout the buy to allow us to boost BIPOC impressions where needed. Let's move on to some key learnings now. The first major learning coming out of this campaign ties back to the challenges of seasonality. In a first for Travel Oregon, we took a major awareness driving campaign and launched it in the very competitive and cluttered winter shoulder season. Historically, our fall-winter campaigns have been more acquisition-focused, aimed at driving bookings and generating traffic on TravelOregon.com. The OSC3 campaign cemented the fact that fall-winter is a difficult time to advertise. Competition from the holiday shopping period, combined with seasonal downturn in travel demand for Oregon, presented us with challenging conditions. We experienced anticipated spikes in advertising costs, limited digital ad inventory, long turnaround times from advertisers, and suppressed demand due to Omicron. With these considerations in mind, we must expect and be open to a lower return on investment as we push to support tourism businesses during this crucial winter season. This led to our second learning, which is that increased spending volume combined with broad awareness messaging can't stand up to these obstacles alone. Instead of focusing on upper funnel awareness, we need to home in on lower funnel engagement to break through the noise. This reinforced the idea that retail-based messaging, like we had last year with the Give the Gift of Oregon campaign, are better received from our audience during this time of year. Given the importance of boosting shoulder season demand for most regions of Oregon, we need to commit to strategies and tactics that will be cost effective while still generating desired outcomes. Lastly, one of the most exciting outcomes from the campaign for our DEI initiatives was the high-level engagement coming from our Spanish language content. Continuing the trend that we saw with Welcome to Oregon Again, we expanded the Spanish language offering, and it performed exceptionally well and highlighted some of our best engagement across all advertising mediums. This speaks to the mutual benefit of investing time and resources into authentic, culturally relevant content. And I will pause there and open it up for any quick questions before we transition back to Kevin.
All right, thank you, Brian. Commissioners, any questions for Brian at this point?
I have a question.
Yes,
Brian, you mentioned some of the sentiments that were some negative sentiments, but I couldn't read them. Can you give us an example of what the negatives were?
A lot of it came on social media, specifically, Facebook and Instagram being the primary channels there. And a lot of it just surrounded kind of, I'll call it the look and feel of Portland a little bit. That was the primary negative feedback we saw. A lot of it was unrelated to the actual campaign. It was more directed at Portland. We get a lot of that type of feedback normally with all the campaigns we do, although it was a little bit elevated for this campaign given the effects coming off of the pandemic.
Was it as if the campaign was misleading, or just in a general negative sentiment about that part of our state?
I don't recall any specific instances where it was directly saying that our campaign was giving the wrong impression. Most of it, from what I saw, was more directed for people just looking for some place to vent.
Got it.
And we tend to get the brunt of that at times.
Yeah, thank you. Also, can you please define upper funnel versus lower funnel? Sorry.
Yeah, no, great
I want to
question.
understand that. Sorry, guys.
Yeah, when we talk about upper funnel engagement, we're really talking about our awareness driving campaigns. So that's what we focus more on, potentially like video views, for example, where it's not necessarily intent isn't to drive people directly to Travel Oregon. It's more to kind of generate top of mind awareness so people are thinking about Oregon again. And when we talk about lower funnel engagement, it's kind of similar to like an e-commerce website where we're looking for action at the bottom of the funnel, whether it be a guide order, whether it be joining a newsletter program, signing up for a sweeps, or clicking on one of our links that clicks out to one of our guides or outfitters.
Thank you.
You also commented that the views, looks like it was the long form video views, it was about 2.4 million, and that was lower than any other campaign. My question is, did you market to the same areas? I couldn't remember. I thought it was a smaller subset that we marketed to, so it would inherently be smaller than previous campaigns.
You're exactly correct on the terms of the having less views than we had in the prior campaigns. Really, the advertising spend was almost identical, and the targets were mostly exactly the same. It was really just when we came out with OSC1, it was that big splash. It was new. It was something that had never been seen before in the tourism industry, and it generated just a viral reaction. We had, I believe it was closer to 10.5 million views, I think, on OSC1 and 4.8 million for OSC2. A lot of that just speaks to the repetition of kind of seeing the same types of creative from us, and it doesn't really generate the same reaction each time, which is why we're in the midst right now of pushing on with our new campaign, Extraordinary is Ordinary.
Thank you.
Brian, maybe to address that point and to help in answering Lucinda's question, during OSC3, during those 11 weeks, I didn't have an opportunity to get over to Washington Square and refresh the video on all of the Macs and all of the iPads at the Apple Store. I think that was principally what drove OSC1 and to a lesser extent OSC2. So my bad, I'm sorry.
I didn't want to call you out in a public forum.
I've got a question. Brian, I think you commented on the challenge of spending effectively during the cluttered shoulder and winter season. Does that indicate thoughts about not spending in that season, or is it just an observation that it's harder to produce results in that season?
Not at all, and Kevin, feel free to back me up here at all, but yeah, we know that this is an important time of year to be advertising. We wouldn't look to back away at all during this time of year. We're just looking to make sure that we're spending our dollars in a way that will generate the biggest amount of impact.
Thank you.
Yeah, and some of this is managing expectations. If we're, you put the dollar for dollar, a spring campaign versus a fall campaign, you're going to see a higher return in the spring. That said, we will look at tactics and do everything we can to optimize whether we're in the spring or the fall. But if it was purely a money game, if it was purely numbers and dollars, then we would put all that money into spring. But we know when the business is needed in the fall, and so we're looking to make sure that we're optimizing in that space as well.
Yeah, great for that. Thank you for that acknowledgement. Appreciate it.
And this year we didn't have an election. I mean, you get the election in there, and it's we need to consider it as our timing, but it's just the rates for our ads are just through the roof during the Christmas holiday.
All right, not seeing any other questions. So Brian, thank you, and Kevin, I know you're up next with the next update. So
yeah,
thanks, Brian.
And I'll call it just an update. We were gonna share a quick, just kind of creative update on Oregon Slightly Exaggerated. I'm sorry, Extraordinary is Ordinary, but we're gonna hold on that. But for now, I'm just gonna share just kind of what the next 9 months look like and what we're thinking about. So, and this is my presentation. I think before I hop in, I just wanted to call out the significance of this moment. The third installment of Oregon Slightly Exaggerated was our first out-of-state awareness campaign since 2018. During that time, we watched Oregon's advertising spend against our competitive set go from 10% to 1%. As we look ahead to inspiring new travelers to visit Oregon, we can draw on the learnings from the last 4 years to guide our work. The team is inspired and challenged to refill the demand funnel through the strategic lenses of stewardship and equity. As we look at our advertising approach moving forward, it's impossible not to consider the World Athletic Championships happening July 15th through the 24th. This represents a once-in-a-lifetime opportunity for Oregon and something we've been talking with our partners about for a long time. We're building a 9-month plan that includes pulses during the spring, summer, and fall of 2022. Historically, we've built singular campaigns focusing on fall and spring timeframes. Now we're looking at a pulsed approach where these campaigns, being a little closer together, can work in concert. Our spring work will focus on getting domestic and international travelers coming to Oregon for the championships to extend their stay and expand the geography of their visit. This will be a targeted campaign launching in early April, utilizing Oregon Slightly Exaggerated creative assets, and will focus on engaging with audiences created by the Oregon 22 team, which include retargeting advertising to Oregon 22 audiences, providing Travel Oregon vacation planning guides to ticket purchasers, and we'll create and distribute inspirational travel content through all of Oregon 22's digital platforms like their website and e-news, et cetera. We'll also look to work with OTAs in this space, online travel agencies, and as well as geo-fencing and geo-targeted advertising that we can do during the championships. Through all of these opportunities, through all of these channels, we'll look for opportunities to inspire travelers to seek out all that Oregon has to offer. We'll use these platforms to share messages of stewardship and equity, safety, and know before you go messaging like we orchestrated for the eclipse and throughout COVID will also be super important during this time. This summer, we'll use the platform of the World Championships to unveil the new Extraordinary is Ordinary advertising campaign. A new campaign and the exposure to the championships presents an incredible opportunity to rebuild Oregon's tourism economy. This will be a brand awareness campaign with much larger reach than we've ever had, seeding future travel demand from new audiences. As we build this out, we'll be thinking about creating opportunities for our industry partners to buy into this work and draft off of it, so we can increase Oregon's share of voice. If we've learned anything from the pandemic, our plans need to be built in ways that can easily adjust based on what comes our way. So keep in mind, many of the tactics I'm sharing with you today may evolve based on what we're seeing in the marketplace. As we look to the fall, we'll harvest the seeds that we planted with our summer brand awareness work with a conversion-focused campaign, lower funnel. We'll encourage our audience in Oregon and close-in drive markets to book Oregon travel during the fall and holiday season. We know with multiple exposures, our ads have greater impact, as you often hear us speak to optimizing the reach and frequency of our campaigns. We tend to think of reach and frequency kind of per campaign, like within a single campaign. But with these campaigns happening in closer cadence, we'll be able to look for opportunities to coordinate reach and frequency across those pulses. In the fall plan, we'll look for opportunities to retarget potential leisure travelers who saw the extraordinary as ordinary in the summer with conversion ads driving to TravelOregon.com and OTA booking partners at a time when our industry has the greatest economic need. Our goal is to constantly make our ads work harder for us. This pulsed approach that I'm talking about is something we've been talking about since even before COVID. As we move forward, we need to be nimbler with our approach in order to better serve our state. When I first got to Oregon, it was that place between Washington and California, and that's not the case now. It's important that our marketing evolve to serve our regions who have very different needs at different times of the year. Moving forward, I see 3, 4, maybe 5 smaller pulsed campaigns giving us the flexibility to focus on driving demand at the time and place most needed. And that is all I have.
All right. Thank you, Kevin. Questions for Kevin?
I have a quick question. What is close-in markets? Sorry.
Close-in markets, which campaign? Usually,
It says primary audience Oregonians and close-in markets?
close-in, so like...
Close-in.
Close-in means like Oregon, but we'll maybe pick off Seattle, maybe hit Sacramento, maybe hit Boise, that kind of drive markets.
Thanks for explaining that.
Can you get back to the spring campaign slide?
Yeah.
So if I understand it, I think like 100,000 tickets have been sold for Oregon 22. Is that right? I think that's what I read most recently. So who are we? Are we advertising to international folks, or who are we advertising to? Because I guess my question is, haven't they already made their plans to come here? So who specifically are we advertising to?
Yeah, we're in talks with them. It's been really hard to get. We're trying. We're on our third ask, to get demographic because it's protected, and the ticket sales are all through Ticketmaster. So Oregon 22 has to go through Ticketmaster and those permissions to drill down on who's buying them. There's some social media that I think Sparkloff did for Oregon 22 that kind of gives you a heat map of where the conversations are, but they're not tickets sold. So I don't have the demographic information, but we do have access to communicate with them. So we're hopeful that we will get it, but in the meantime, our thinking, you may have a plan, you may be coming from Germany, or you may be coming from Seattle to see the event, but you might not have all of your plans made. Our messaging is the coast is an hour away, Portland's an hour, the things that you can do within proximity.
Got it.
They may, a traveler from Germany is not going to be able to extend their trip, but maybe somebody from Seattle can. And so just trying to get them to branch out from, and spread that economic impact out.
Perfect, thank you.
Seriously, when are we going to get to see Extraordinary is Ordinary? You're killing me.
I will say, it's so hard because it's it takes away a lot of the fun if we show you every little thing and how we built it along the way. And so I would say, because you want the grand reveal of something amazing. So you saw something at our last commission meeting. I need to work with Todd on this, but the plan would be either June, we'd be launching in July, or we'd probably do a commission training like we've had in the past and share with you kind of what we're doing. That's the current thinking right now.
And assuming that it will be as incredibly successful as all of the other recent campaigns, the way Only Slightly Exaggerated took on its own identity as OSE and gave birth to its successors, OSE2 and OSC3. Can we safely assume that this new campaign, if successful, will become EIO?
EISO.
Oh,
Commissioner Youngblood, EISO. You're the first to know. We haven't really spoke to it yet, but EISO is how we refer to it internally.
And I don't.
It's close to EIO.
I don't feel the need to put this up to a vote, but Gabi and I were talking about it earlier, and the thought is, if in fact it gives birth to future iterations by virtue of its success, then the nomenclature becomes, Richard, you want to take this?
All yours, Scott.
EIEIO.
Don't do it. Don't do it.
Never mind.
Well,
and then there's tie-ins to agritourism. I feel like I'm doing your job for you, man.
And I guess my takeaway today is it really doesn't matter what we call it. If you're not in the Apple store refreshing the screens, we're hosed. So we appreciate your work.
This is very exciting. I will say this. With this campaign coming, the timing can be better, of course, to help to rebuild the reputation of the state. And then the other piece of that is, I think in terms of the sports tourism, what the opportunities there, future opportunities are. So it's pretty exciting. I'm excited about the work you're doing. Thanks.
Yeah. Some of this I was saying, especially with the pulses, it's a lot of the things we were talking about before COVID when things changed. And so we're excited to get back into that work and pick up, it's not like I was going to say pick up where we left off, but we've been ruminate on this, and now with the transformative strategy, it's nice to see the transformative strategy speaks to a lot of what we were trying to figure out even before COVID. So we're excited about what's in front of us.
I'll pose one more question, if I might. The Pulse strategy looks pretty interesting, and you mentioned a geographic component to it, Kevin. So how will you decide which areas get attention?
Yeah, another piece that we were doing before COVID hit was an analysis of high use and what we call, this is internal talk, but high use and gap areas. So it would, like everything we do, be grounded in the research. So, obviously we want to hit all regions throughout the year, but when does the North Coast might not want to be in a campaign in the summer? And then you even got to back it up. So what do these campaigns look like? And if we're, awareness, we're driving further out travel versus more conversion-based, which is closer, like shorter window. But the idea would be, all right, who needs it when, and how do we, if there were 7 regions, you can start to see a matrix to be like, all right, we're going to hit these 2 regions in this pulse and these 2 regions here, or something along those lines. We haven't mapped it out, but it's based on, the high use areas, who have demand and when do they need it and when do they not need it. So we'd have to start mapping it out, but TBD.
Thanks.
All right, Kevin, I'm not seeing any other questions. Thank you very much.
Guys. Great to see you all.
Yeah, good to see you. Well, commissioners, it is now my pleasure to ask Lisa Edel and Matthew Finn to join us up here. My friends, this is the duo who have poured so much time and energy into what we're here today and ready to launch tonight, and that is the 37th Annual Governor's Conference on Tourism. So Lisa and Matthew, thank you very much, and I'll turn it over to you.
Thank you, Todd, and good afternoon, Commissioners. It's great to see you here in Sun River. And after 2 years of pivoting and being flexible and adapting to new norms, Travel Oregon is really excited to bring the Oregon Governor's Conference on Tourism back in person and to Sun River. We are so excited that 300 plus partners from Oregon's tourism industry can join us in person. But for those colleagues and partners that are unable to join us this year, the conference will be live streamed. Virtual attendees will have the opportunity to stream both keynote and breakout sessions via our online platform, and there is no cost to attend the conference virtually. Links for all sessions can be accessed on Travel Oregon's industry website. We have a lot of special moments planned over the next 2 days, but one of my personal favorites is that we were able to collaborate with 8 of Oregon's 9 tribes to offer an official tribal welcome, which will kick off the conference tomorrow morning at 8:30. The conference provides attendees the opportunity to exchange ideas with peers, learn from expert panelists, and draw inspiration from nationally renowned speakers. And this year, we are honored to have Ann Curry, Emmy Award-winning journalist. She will be our closing session keynote speaker. Ann grew up in Southern Oregon and worked at KGW before her career as a national and international correspondent anchor for NBC News and anchor for The Today Show. Now residing in New York, she still considers herself an Oregonian, and we look forward to Ann bringing some of her Oregon stories to life as she talks determination and never giving up. We are also honored to welcome newly appointed Director of the National Park Service, Chuck Sams. Director Sams, who hails from Oregon, is a member of Cayuse and Walla Walla of the Confederated Tribes of Umatilla Indian Reservation, will provide a keynote address on Tuesday afternoon. Tuesday evening, you're invited to the Wandering with Oregon's Y Guides. I see a theme here. It's time to get to know some of your Oregon Y Guides, a community made of local experts who help travelers discover unique experiences, follow destination management principles, and provide land stewardship throughout the state, creating a memorable and sustainable experience for our visitors. Now I'd like to turn it over to my colleague Matthew Finn to speak to some of those other special moments I referred to earlier.
Thank you, Lisa, and hello, commissioners. One of those special moments is our Tuesday lunch. With an introduction from the Destination Development Team, we worked with the High Desert Food and Farm Alliance to identify businesses from the High Desert Food Trail that would be interested in sharing their products and experiences with our conference attendees. To showcase them, we designed a miniature food trail experience with 5 vendors sharing samples alongside a catered lunch with an Oregon-inspired menu. The lunch is designed so folks have more free-form networking time to connect with their peers given the absence of in-person events. Next, we're grateful for the support offered by the many longtime sponsors that allow us to be creative with our conference design and showcase unique experiences. Please be sure to thank these companies for their support and connect with their representatives over the next couple of days. We also appreciate the support of many exhibitors. There will be multiple opportunities to connect with them, including this evening at the opening reception. Many of the exhibitors rolled over their financial commitments from the canceled 2020 conference, so we are especially grateful for their continued support. One other special moment, as I love doing these from previous conferences, is with Crux Fermentation project. Taking the theme of our conference, we collaborated with the team at Crux in Bend to develop a limited run of a draft-only beer called Future Forward IPA. The beer uses Oregon-grown products and is a nod to the use of the recently experimental Mackenzie hop that is expected to be used more widely in the future. To further our support of stewardship projects, we brought in Visit Bend so that proceeds from the sale of the beer at Crux would support the Bend Sustainability Fund. The beer will be available at the opening reception and at Crux in Bend. This project was possible because I had the opportunity to connect with Visit Bend's Kevney Dugan during the Oregon Tourism Leadership Academy. I mentioned that as a small plug for the leadership program and its next cohort kicking off on Wednesday. Thank you for your time, and we welcome your questions.
Oh, so subtle. So, commissioners, any questions for Lisa and Matthew?
I just want to thank Lisa and Matthew, not only for all of your work organizing, getting this conference together, but I forgot a few details, and so at the last minute, I'm emailing Lisa and Matthew, and they still had time to get back to me, so super grateful to you for all the work that you've done for this conference, so thank you.
Any other questions or comments at this time?
Not a question, but just to thank you as well, because I know it takes a lot of time and stress. And especially, Lisa, I've seen that on your face, because both of you care so much about the program itself. So thank you for all the work that you've done.
In the planning environment that they were building this conference within, because as you all know, this didn't come together in the last 2 weeks. It came together over the course of the last year as we were navigating variants and steps taken to mitigate the spread. And this team was nimble and adapted with it all along the way. So really well done, you guys.
Thank you. Thanks,
Very
Todd.
proud of
Thanks,
you.
Commissioners.
Thanks, Lisa. Thanks, Matthew. Mr. Chairman, as I turn it back over to you, I'll just take a brief moment of personal privilege, if I may. It's been acknowledged both by Scott and by you about the passing of Jerry Frank. And Jerry's a dear man, a dear friend, he's a great Oregonian. He was chair of the commission when I was hired and served in that role, as you noted, Mr. Chair, for 5 years. And he loved Oregon. And it showed. It showed in his guidebook about Oregon. It showed in his frequent articles that appeared in the Oregonian, originally called Friday Surprise. He loved Oregon so much we were all willing to forgive him that he literally wrote the quintessential travel guidebook to New York City. You know, we were that proud to have Jerry as, a son of Oregon. He really believed in Oregon. He believed in the power of public service. He believed in being involved in programs that mattered. You read some of the articles about him, it's kind of like, I didn't have time to golf and I didn't have time to do this because I wanted to do something that was going to have a legacy for Oregon. It wasn't about his legacy, it was about Oregon, taking care of Oregon. And I will miss him greatly. And I just would be remiss if I let this meeting adjourn without me acknowledging that. With that, Mr. Chair, I'll turn it back over to you.
Thank you, Todd, and thank you for sharing that memoriam. Commissioners, any business or announcements for any of you on behalf of your own businesses or communities?
No, I just want to jump in and also mention Jerry. I knew him when I was a little girl, and he would come to the winery. This is 50-some years ago, and he was a champion of Oregon in every way. And I just want to say that he was a true Oregonian, that he lived to 98. So there's that too. So here's to Jerry.
To Jerry.
Well, I just want to take a moment before we end today and once again just say thank you to Kathleen and her team, for the Gold Star certificate. But, I don't want to forget the fact that Scott Youngblood at the Embassy Suites, which most of us know, top 100 companies to work for. Oh, yeah. So wonderful, wonderful. And then, of course, right next to me, Maria Ponzi, Lifetime Achievement Award from the Oregon Wine. And so awesome work, and with the things that you and I have talked about that you'll be working on with women that are entering the industry and looking for support as well. So kudos to all three of you.
Thank you.
Commissioners? Well, our next meeting is scheduled for June in Eugene, Oregon. Looking forward to spending time with you at Hayward Field and getting a little preview of what will be an incredible experience just a few short weeks later. Unless anyone has anything else, we look forward to catching up with all of you over the next couple of days. And as the meeting ends, I would ask that we continue our conversations outside, where fresh cookies are being served, I'm told. The line forms behind me, and staff needs to prepare this space for our exciting Industry Achievement Awards this evening. I believe. Lastly, and as my point of personal privilege, please do keep the people of Ukraine in your hearts and on your tongues. Lord knows they need us now. Thank you, friends. We are adjourned.